this community. She met Roberto in Ecuador, and together they lived there and started the Education Equals Hope ministry. Caroline grew up in this parish. She's Caroline Williams Allen, and she went to Sewanee, and after that she worked as a with youth in South Carolina, right? Florida, excuse me. And then, somewhere in this time, she connected up with John Allen, who you may remember as the student resident here. He lived in the church. The two of them got married, and skipping a lot of chapters, they went to Ecuador where they worked for Education Equals Hope. So once again, same group. At this point, however, Caroline, it's very hard to explain the situation in Ecuador. It almost sounds incestuous, but because of a history of colonialism and this kind of thing, you cannot just go to Ecuador and say, I'm a charity, I'm going to do good work. They go, I'd like to know your bona fides. So any charity that goes to Ecuador has to affiliate under the umbrella of an already established charitable entity in Ecuador. And Education Equals Hope is under the umbrella of Youth World, which is under the umbrella of another group. And as it turns out, Caroline is now one of the directors of Youth World, under which Education Equals Hope is homed. And John still works for Education Equals Hope. So we have at this point 3 homegrown missionaries. 2 of them are here for you to hear tonight, Caroline and John Allen. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. You really know your stuff.
Thank you, Jackie. We're having a little clicker issue, so I might walk over here, or I might recruit a family member to come hit the arrow. Jackie did such a great job introducing us. I think we can skip this slide, but here's some throwback pictures of when I was in high school in EYC. I did grow up here, as she said, but it's been a while since I've been around. So that's what I used to look like, and some other friends. Teresa was there for those days. I'm trying to see who else was around. And I'll let John introduce himself as well. Thanks, Mom.
Good morning. Thanks for coming this morning. Yeah, my name is John Allen. I came to UNC Chapel Hill for school in 2007 and started volunteering with EYC here back when Karen Parker was the youth director. And then in the middle picture there, I was involved in ECM as well. And so that was a spring break mission team to Honduras. You see Bill Joyner in there. That was when Tammy Lee was doing ECM. And I have to say, living here was like a fairy tale. 24/7 coffee machine available. I could come down to the student center and play the piano anytime I wanted. That was when Sarah Hart was one of the SCs. I saw her earlier this morning. And then my favorite was that these little fairies came and left home-baked cookies and leftovers in the fridge in the campus center. So fun memories from those days. And then, yes, we got married in 2016 here at Chapel of the Cross. Who's next?
So this is our attempt at explaining the spider web that Jackie was referencing. But just to give you a little bit of context, this is all part of who we work with and where we work in Ecuador. And we are on a team of almost 100 people made up of local Ecuadorians and expat missionaries. We work with 9 different ministries. There's a skate park, there's a conference and retreat center, youth ministry, all sorts of fun things. And one of those 9 ministries is Education Equals Hope that Jackie was talking about. So we're all interconnected, and what connects all 9 of us is that we're working with youth, children, and families, which are defined as at risk. that can be taken a lot of different ways, but we're working with youth and children and their parents and their communities. So as Jackie mentioned, we went down 3 years ago to work with Education Equals Hope and Cameron Vivanco. She's up there at the bottom in the middle. And I recently, at the beginning of the summer, took a new job, so I'm actually resourcing. My job right now is to resource the 9 directors of those 9 ministries. So that's a little bit of what I do, and John is still with Education Equals Hope he's a magical person who likes doing admin work. That's not me, but we all need those people, right? So he does all the emails and he coordinates all the logistics and the details, and a lot of what Education Equals Hope does is at its core is a micro scholarship organization. So we're working to keep children in school. Education in Ecuador is technically free, but if you don't have the uniform or the school supplies, then they won't let you into the classroom. So scholarships we're talking about $20 a month. I might need that. Just so that you can get into the classroom and get that education. So micro scholarships, and then the other big arm of Education Equals Hope is short-term teams. So some of y'all have been to Ecuador. Karen's been, let's see who else I can pick out. Elizabeth, my mom. Yeah, Alan's been down there, Jackie and Stan. Lots of fun folks have come to visit us in Quito and to visit our ministry partners. And so down here at the bottom is a picture of the pastor of one of our churches. Her name is Lourdes. I say it wrong, so she says I should call her Lula. And she's actually, I lived with her for a year in 2015. She's like my Ecuadorian mother, but she's the pastor or the priest of the church named Cristo Librador, and that is where Chapel of the Cross has deep and wide relationship and connection. So that's a little bit of how all things fit together. We're not going to go super into detail into those other 9 ministries, but since it's part of my job now, we thought we'd tell you a little bit about them. Does that help, Jackie, explain a little bit of that? Okay. Okay, Mom, you can go to the next one.
So Caroline mentioned the micro scholarship program. That is how Cameron founded Education Equals Hope. And the short-term teams are a way that we support that work. The scholarships are administered from 20 different, we call them ministry sites around Ecuador. Most of them churches, 3 of them are Episcopal churches, including Cristo Liberador. So our teams that come down are short-term teams, like Chapel of the Cross. You see some pictures up here. They plug in at one of those ministry sites, and that just breathes life into those parishes. It's something that everyone gets excited for, everyone comes together to plan, everyone shows up, and we just have a great time. So it's a way that those churches it's just something that they look forward to every year. It brings people into the community and breathes life into that. So Chapel of the Cross is one of the churches that has sent the most teams since we've been there, at least. ECM came in 2022. There was a youth and adult team last year. We are talking about looking at an ECM team and a youth and adult team next summer. So you'll see plenty of familiar faces up here, but our teams are really important. It's not just going down and having fun. It is, obviously they all do some work projects, but the relational piece is really important. In Ecuador, people really look up to the United States. You don't realize how much the U.S. is the culture capital of the world until you go to another country and see them wearing Chicago Bulls shirts. And occasionally we'll see some wearing a UNC Chapel Hill shirt. And we have to stop ourselves from saying, "Go Heels," because they don't know what that means. They just know it's in English, it's from the U.S., it's cool. Yeah, that's what we said. And so the fact for these Ecuadorians that someone would come from the States, they kind of put us up on a pedestal, which is, we know, not how it should be. We are equally loved in God's eyes, but it is really meaningful for them that someone from the States wants to come to Ecuador, be at their church, talk to them, ask about their story. It's huge, and that relational piece is one of the biggest pieces of what we do. So these teams are really important.
And you can look at the org chart or hear us talk, but really ultimately what our work is about and what we do is connecting people. And so I love these pictures because it's just the physical evidence of what we can't see, which is the relationships and the connections. And it's not just going down for 10 days and then coming back and thinking, oh, that was fun. Like that one time I went to Ecuador, hung out with John and Caroline, and came back. It's something that's happened over time. Cameron has been down there over 20 years. I went down for the first time over 10 years ago. This is a relationship that continues. And so everyone that comes down just puts another drop in the bucket into that relationship. And so that's really wonderful for us to get to see. Next. And so with that in mind, we just want to show y'all some pictures and tell you some stories and help you get to know some of the people that we know and love, and some of the people that some of y'all who have been down there also already know and love. Because really what we do is we work with people and we just try to show up for their lives and love them. That's the same thing y'all do here in Chapel Hill as Chapel of the Cross. Just show up for people. So this is a family that's very near and dear to our hearts. That top left picture was taken, Nathan is the baby. He's our godson. That was taken in 2015 at his baptism. And Angel and Erica are two of the leaders at Cristo. So if you've been down there, you probably know and love and remember them. Angel is one of the youth group leaders, and Erica is actually the scholarship coordinator at the church. So that micro scholarship program, each church has a local board, and they determine how to implement the scholarship at each church. And so Erica, who's our age, is in charge of this, and she runs the program and leads it and handles the distribution every month. But more than that, she checks in with every family. So every family that comes and receives a small amount of funds a month, she says, hey, how have you been this month? What's new? What's going on? And it's an opportunity for pastoral care and to check in and to see how people are doing. So it's a holistic, our hope is that it's a holistic approach. Up there, we're celebrating an Ecuador soccer game, went out to dinner with them, and then as you can see, this was taken this past Easter, so Nathan's grown up a little bit since 2015. But this is just a family that we've been able to connect with and who's really poured into us. I remember when I lived there in 2015, I don't really get too homesick, but for some reason it was my birthday and I was feeling a little bummed that I wasn't gonna get my mom's carrot cake or something like that. And Angel and Erica got everybody together and they all made me cards and they just made me feel special and made me feel celebrated. And so it's a two-way street, and we're showing up for each other, and we're just really grateful for this family. So just wanted you to get to know them a little bit.
Go next.
This is me too. This is Brenda. Some of y'all know her too, I think. Brenda is actually now on staff with Education Equals Hope, so she raised funds to go to nursing school and study through college with Education Equals Hope. And she's now a nurse, and so she's helping with some health initiatives. And again, this first picture was taken in 2015. She's just a dear friend. She was going through a tough time. There's a youth retreat called Happening that happens around the country in Episcopal churches, And so we met in 2015 at Happening. I showed up and thought I spoke really, really good Spanish, and showed up to a whole retreat weekend and thought, uh-oh, this is going to be a long year. And people still make fun of my accent at that weekend. Still do, but. So we met at that weekend, and then my job in 2015 was working at Cristo Librador. So Lourdes, the priest who you saw earlier, basically was just like, okay, Caroline, I need you to do this today. Today you're typing up baptism records. Today you're coming with me on Ash Wednesday. We're visiting people. I just did whatever she told me to do. And Brenda was going through a tough time, and she was like, hey, can I show up too? Like, I'm not doing anything. Can I just come? And so we spent a lot of time together that year. She at that point spoke no English, and now her English is, those of you who have met her, I mean, she would be up here translating if we needed a translator. She's incredible. And so I think what Brenda highlights for me is the leadership development that happens over time. So she was just a member of the church, and then she made the decision to spend time at the church and to spend time with people and allow us to get to know her. And then she decided to learn English. She was a part of our internship program, and now she's, a nurse that's pouring back into the kids at the church. And so if we're doing it well, it's a cycle, and it's a self-fulfilling leadership development program where people who are part of the scholarship program are coming back and pouring back into it.
And so some of Brenda's work now is at Cristo and one of our other churches. Access to healthcare is complicated in Ecuador, but she is able to go and along with someone else and provide psychological, mental care as well as physical. She's a real resource, really important at Cristo and another church. The next person I wanted to tell you about, raise your hand if you've met Willie. Yep, great. Is he the best or what? So he is from the neighborhood that Cristo is in. It is one of the poorest neighborhoods in Quito. It's the most densely populated. It's kind of a cinder block jungle. He's from that neighborhood, kind of ended up in the wrong crowd. He's been involved in gunfights. He's been got into partying, and he came across the skate park ministry that Caroline mentioned earlier. And he's a skater, so he ended up getting tied in there and kind of realizing, hey, this is not the life God wants for me. I need to turn my life around. And we've been fortunate enough to get to work with him the last, several summers, 2 summers. He has been an intern for us hosting teams, including last summer, 2023's Chapel of the Cross team. And he's one of the most relational people I've ever met. He has a really hard time when the teams leave because he gets so attached to y'all, and he keeps in touch with people. He's wonderful. He calls Caroline his big sister, and so we wanted to tell some of these stories about some of the transformation that happened, and Willie is Exhibit A for that, for how education equals hope has just changed his life, and he's now pouring into other people's lives, sharing words of affirmation with the teams that come, and he's a leader in our community. He, back in the day, had dropped out of college in his partying days, and he, now sadly for us, he's no longer hosting teams for us. Well, he's no longer interning with us all summer, although he is hosting occasional teams. But he's back in college. He's pursuing a marketing degree. He made straight A's last semester, which was his first this time around. So one of my favorite Willie stories, we went to a soccer game. He's a big soccer player, and he's cocky. So he knew he was going to score. He said, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to score. And several of us went. Bella Haddon went, And after he scored a goal, he ran over to where we were cheering for him on the sideline, pulled up his jersey, and underneath had a white shirt, and he'd written in Sharpie, "Education equals hope," and just ran by.
We love Willie. There he is again. We also wanted to highlight another way that Chapel of the Cross has been involved so far in our work in Ecuador. You've heard us talking about interns or internship, and each summer we receive, it depends on the year, but 8 to 10 to 12 mission teams. It's kind of like a summer camp schedule. So throughout the year, people come, but in the summer, when kids are out of school, that's when a lot of our teams come. So we might have 3 or 4 teams on the ground at the same time. And so we simultaneously run an internship program, which has been my very favorite part of my job, working with these college-age kids who just really want to be there and are really invested. And so we have local Ecuadorians as part of the internship, and also people from the US that want to come down and serve for the whole summer. And so 2 summers ago, we had 3 ECM students come down. Jesus is here with us on this side, and then Bella and Haddon's on that side. Anyway, if you know them, you know they're up there. But these are also some of our interns. And the 3 of them came down on a mission team, and our whole goal with teams is that it's not just that 10-day experience, but that it's something that changes and that continues on past that, and there's some sort of fruit or transformation in people's lives. And so at the end of the team, we say, okay, now how are you going to be different when you go home? And so the 3 of them really took that to heart, and they came down and served for almost 3 months with us. And so it was really fun for us to have that little part of home and, walk around watching Carolina games and UNC shirts, and you can say "Go Heels" to them because they know what you're talking about. But it was also special to just feel that sense of family and community from y'all, from Chapel of the Cross, because it's one thing to pray and to send funds and to come down on a team, but to send people who you love and care about and trust them and their leadership and their mentoring to us is really, really meaningful. And so that was such a wonderful summer, and they got to host the team that y'all were on, and just really delve deep into the community. Jesus and Haddon are still students. Bella has graduated, but Jesus came back this past summer just to visit because he wanted to see the people at Cristo. There's a guy named David who is he's in seminary, and so he sort of fills the role somewhat like a deacon in the church services, and I don't think they look just alike, but they look very similar, Jesus and David. And so the first time Jesus walked in, everyone went, "It's David's twin." And so they just also have a really special bond. And he came back and visited, and David graduated from seminary, so Jesus actually took him on a trip to see some waterfalls, and it's just another example of that continued long-term relationship and friendship.
All right, raise your hand if you know Christian. Okay, my parents don't count. Karen came this past summer with another team to get to know Cristo a little bit and the teams before hopefully bringing a team next summer. And so Christian hosted that team, as well as the team my parents were on this past summer. But this is Christian. He was born in Colombia. Father was never in the picture. His mom moved to Quito, was working in prostitution. And Christian, I don't know much about growing up, but when COVID hit, he was working at a Chinese restaurant. And, he was providing for himself. A lot of his coworkers he got along really well with. They were partiers, so he kind of got into the partying crowd. and then with COVID, the restaurant closed. He lost his job, he was homeless, and he found Casa Gabriel, or Casa G, which those of you who have come to Ecuador know about, and lived there. And he is the sweetest young man. His heart. Through Education Equals Hope's work with Casa Gabriel, he completed high school. He turned his life around. He found a job. He's kind of my running buddy. We'll run together. And he told me one day, hey, my sister is not in a good place. She's suicidal right now. She maxed out my credit card for $500. That's over a month's salary there. And he just took it gracefully and patiently. Hey, like, she did this. I'm not going to let her do it again, but she's my sister. I love her. I'm going to work to pay it off. He got his sister a job. He got a raise at the ice cream shop to a manager position, was able to hire his sister. His sister is now doing great. She's super fun. And so the picture on the right is at Christian's baptism earlier this year. And he has really just, he wants a better life for himself. He was an intern with us all summer this summer, hosting teams, and he's been saving money. He's working there. He's great.
And I think, so Christian's kind of a jokester, and he decided to be baptized earlier this year, and we said, well, what are you doing afterwards? Because, we all know after your baptism you have brunch and you have people over and you celebrate together, right? And he said, well, I don't think I'm doing anything. And John said, we should have brunch. So we said, well, come, invite whoever you want, come on over, and we'll just, do chicken and rice or something, because every meal is chicken and rice in Ecuador. And somehow over the course of the meal, they became this joke, like, well, y'all are the godparents now because you hosted the brunch. And we were like, oh yeah, that's so funny. And then a couple of weeks later, he made a text thread, like, Christian and his godparents. And we said, I don't think this is a joke. So we're not really sure if we're actually his godparents or not, but we joke around it and we call him our godson. And he's really intentional about saying, hey, we haven't hung out in a while. Can we get together? And he really pursues that relationship. And so it's really fun to see that. And he's also currently studying in college. He's taking online classes. So we're really excited to encourage him in that. This is our last story. And I think for me, it just sums up what we hope to do, our goal and our job, and what I would say what I feel called to do. This is not someone from Quito or someone from a team or someone from Chapel of the Cross, but it's a really special moment that we got to be a part of and witness. The picture on the left was taken, I'm not sure exactly what year, but 2016, 2017, something like that. In the years between when I was an intern in Ecuador in 2015 and then when we moved down there full-time 3 years ago, I would go back to host a team from Suwannee every March, and then also I took the youth group that I was working with in Florida down. So this is a picture from one of those visits back. But the woman on the right up here, Cookie, was on a team I hosted in 2015 with Abby Moon, who then became my boss in Florida. And we were working at an Episcopal church down there. And the baby in the picture, and then the little girl, her name is Sophia. And we were working at the church, and at the end of the time of the team, they do a big goodbye party and have balloons and dancing, and it's all this big celebration so that no one cries when they leave. And Sophia's mom came up to Abby and Cookie and said, I want to baptize my daughter, and I want you to be in her life, and I want you to be her godparents. And the priest said, okay, let's do it right here. Like, so there's balloons and streamers going, and we're just over here like doing a little baptism in the corner. And that was in 2015. And that was the last time that Cookie or Abby had been to Ecuador. Abby came back with me and with the youth once in 2016, but Cookie hadn't been since 2015. And she came back, not this summer, but the summer before. And her one request was, I want to see Sophia. And we hadn't seen Sophia and her family a lot at church. We were like, okay, we got to track her down. Like, she has to see her goddaughter. Cookie, sometimes people say, oh, I've been praying for you every day. And you're like, yeah, thank you. But like, Cookie has actually been praying for Sophia by name every day for 10 years. And so this middle picture is the moment on the bus when they saw each other again. And I think for me, that's what our work is about, and that's what our work is about, because y'all are part of everything that we do there. It's the moments of connection, and it's just that, I don't know if you can see it, but the joy on their faces. This is what, these moments don't happen every day. But little glimpses of that do hopefully happen really regularly. And so, it's, sometimes I struggle with, like, oh, it's a mission team, or we're missionaries, and you're like, for me, those words have some baggage. That's another conversation. But really what we do is we spend time with people, and we get to connect wonderful people like y'all with wonderful people in Ecuador. And it's a privilege, and it's an honor, and it's really fun most of the time, too. And so for me, Cookie and Sophia, those are just two people, but that's kind of what I think of when I think of what are we trying to do? Are we on track? What's God calling us to? When you're sitting there sending emails, like remembering this is the bigger thing that we're about and that we're called into. So just a special relationship, and special to get to just watch it happen and not really have that much of a role in it. So you can hit next one. And so, here's another picture that also just shows that. This is the team from Chapel of the Cross, and there was also a group from South Carolina on that team. And so even before y'all got to Ecuador, you were bringing people together, and then working with Cristo. And then Haddon and Bella, the two of our 3 interns from ECM, are in the middle with Willie, who John talked about. You see, Elizabeth Marie and Liam up there, and the Reller family, and Stan, and my mom, and Alan, and Catherine. You're in there too, right? Just people coming together, letting God be in the midst of it, and just people coming from totally different circumstances, and letting John and I show up too. So we really just want to say thank you.
Yeah, so Ecuador can be a fairly hopeless place. Many people come from a complicated family situation. Maybe they don't really feel loved. They're not getting God's love from their parents in many situations. There's not much social upward mobility financially. It's really hard to get a job, much less a well-paying one. And so all of these stories have that in common. All of these stories we just told you, those people could have just given up. Many people do. If you're not feeling loved, if it's hard to get a job, why would you even try to go to university or to live right? And so the link for all of these is transformation and hope. And you guys are a part of that. Thank you for supporting Cameron and the Vivancos, for supporting Caroline and me, so that we can do the work that we do. Thank you for contributing to the scholarships that help kids stay in school. And thanks for coming down and bringing that spark, that joy, because it makes a huge difference down there. Thank you. Any questions, comments, fun stories? Yes. That's a great question, and we're not doing as good of a job at that as we could. We track numbers, how many kids that we're supporting their education in schools, but we only have a small staff, and so honestly, we don't have any sort of database where, okay, so and so went to, ended up getting this job or anything like that. It's a good question.
I think there's some aspiration there, but I think what I would add to that is John mentioned there are 20, we call them ministry sites. Most of them are churches, and each of those has that local board that's in charge of the scholarship in their area. And so we don't connect with 500 students in Ecuador because that's too many. We just can't. But like Erica, who was on the first slide, she knows every single one of the 30 students at Cristo that are in her program, and they are tracking in an unofficial way, but tracking with people. It's not a very mobile population, and so people don't move away, and we don't really lose track of them. And so they're just checking in. It's more empowering that local leadership to see how people are doing.
I want to make an unabashed plea for help for these two young people. Having been there last summer, along with a bunch of other great people, many of whom are here today, it was an experience of a lifetime. And I wish I could come back this summer. I can't. But the only way that both Caroline and John can survive is if we help them out monetarily. And so I'm asking all of you who can't go but would like to go, there are cards over there on the table, and they have all sorts of information on it. And if you'd like to give to Education Equals Hope, please do, because you've seen the witness in this program this morning of what they are able to do and the connections that they make. What was fascinating to me about being there was that they then connected us, the volunteers, with them. And so we got to share part of their lives for the brief time that we were there because of the work that they do. So support it. And they didn't ask me to say this. That's why he says, this is unabashed plea to help them out because you can see what they've done. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. And we're Chapel of the Cross also, I know y'all are in the middle of a stewardship campaign and giving to the church, and part of those funds also goes to support John and I and Cameron and Roberto. So we're very grateful for that.
Yeah, I've got a couple of more comments to make. You mentioned the power of showing up, and that's one of the things when we go down there, it really, that was one of my takeaways from the trip was just the power of showing up and the difference it makes in both the team's lives and the people in Ecuador's lives. And John, yeah, you kind of passed over that, but he really coordinates the teams. He was with us last when we went down there in 23. I expect he will be with us again in 25. And if any of you are so inspired, we all have a intergenerational team going down this summer, June 18th to June 25th, an adult component and an EYC component headed by Cameron. So if anyone, Karen, thank you. And but if anyone is interested in that, please contact me, and you're welcome to come with us. There's plenty of, always room and everything. But again, I will tell you, it's a great and a transformative experience. And just to echo what Alan said, anything both in prayers and financial support you can give, that's all appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, come visit.
Yeah.
Well, John and I will be around for a little bit if you have kind of more personal questions or just want to say hi. And then I don't know if there's any chocolate left or if it all got snatched up, but there's a little bit of Ecuadorian chocolate over there. And then there's also some bracelets that just say Ecuador on them. And so there's a lot. Jackie helped us organize them. But if you'd like to take one, they're just for you. And what we would ask is if you can put it somewhere where you'll see it and just say a prayer for our students and for our ministry and for the people at Cristo that y'all know and love. Whether in person or vicariously. It can be a bracelet, it can be a bookmark, it can be a keychain, but just grab one of those and think of us and of all the things we share in common when you do. And there are just cards with our faces on them too, if you want to put that on the fridge and say a prayer when you see it as well. We're just really grateful to be with y'all and to have this time and for the, this is home for me, so it's really fun that y'all care and want to be part of where our home is now. So just really thank you.
When we went down to the wire, they never go this long. They never go this long.